Right now, in a dusty garage somewhere in Brisbane, Australia, someone is running a decentralized artificial intelligence model.
Yeah, and it's powered entirely by a custom solar array, which is just wild.
Right. And they're navigating the internet via a localized mesh network, basically seamlessly bypassing every corporate paywall on Earth.
Exactly. I mean, we usually think of a home lab as just, rusty desktop PC sitting in a closet running a file server or something.
Yeah, but when you step into the world of DIY tech in 2026, that definition is it's entirely inadequate. We are looking at a landscape that has become this citizen-owned, weatherproof fortress.
It is a massive paradigm shift.
Yeah.
A modern home lab isn't just a weekend hobby anymore.
No.
It's a fully realized microcosm of the global tech industry.
Hmm.
I mean, these DIY setups encompass everything from managing local AI agents to smart energy grids and actively participating in decentralized internet architectures.
Which brings us to our mission for you today. You, our curious listener, are coming with us as we explore a massive, curated digest pulled straight from the Homelab Brisbane Community Discourse.
Yeah, it's this raw, highly detailed snapshot of what everyday tech enthusiasts are actually building in their homes right now.
And the goal today is to rapidly overview this entire ecosystem so you get a complete picture of the cutting edge of DIY tech. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the absolute elephant in the room.
The local AI
The
explosion.
local AI explosion.
And it truly is an explosion. It's completely shifting the geopolitical landscape right down to the consumer level. Like the biggest technical shift dominating the forums right now is China's DeepSeek V4 Pro.
Right.
It's running on domestic Huawei Ascend chips. And what's critical here is that this hardware-software combination is effectively matching Western AI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's fundamentally shifting the balance of the global GPU embargo. So home labbers are meticulously breaking down what this means for local at-home inference now that these massive hardware monopolies are, well, they're beginning to fracture.
Wait, so global geopolitics and trade embargoes are essentially playing out on these community message boards?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because the practical application of this is just wild. The forums are full of guides on downloading DeepSeek R1, specifically the distilled models.
Right, the smaller ones.
Yeah, people are benchmarking the 14 billion parameter version against the 32 billion parameter version on everyday gaming PCs.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
It is, and they are sharing tweaks on quantization, which, for anyone unfamiliar, is essentially a mathematical compression trick.
Exactly.
It lets you squeeze a massive, resource-hungry AI model into a smaller digital footprint so it actually fits on a normal consumer-grade graphics card.
Yep. And it's not just DeepSeek. They have this April 2026 roundup tracking open source models like Quinn and Gemma 4.
So many models.
Oh, tons. Home labbers are sharing batch size tweaks, figuring out which model gives the best bang for your compute buck. And Hugging Face has essentially become the central nervous system for this whole ecosystem.
Right. Allowing home users to discover these models, pull them down, and just host their own demos.
Yeah. But they aren't just chatting with these models anymore. The community is obsessed with agentic AI right now.
Oh, yes. They are deep into platforms like OpenCode, Goose, Fabric, and MayUS.
Yeah.
Instead of just asking a chatbot a question, they are using these AI agents. So imagine giving an AI a goal like, find the cheapest chemical supplier for this compound.
Right.
And the agent autonomously navigates the web, reads the PDFs, and executes the task.
Which is incredible.
Or they're using IDE's code editors like Cursor, which act as autonomous code developers that plan, write, test, and debug completely on their own. But I have to push back here.
Okay, go for it.
Are these agentic AIs like MenuS and Goose actually solving real problems for you, or are they just creating much more complex ways for our code to break autonomously?
See, that is the exact debate happening in a highly active thread called Beyond Vibe Coding.
Beyond vibe coding, right?
Yeah, vibe coding was this concept where you just threw prompts at an AI until the output vibed or, kind of worked.
Which is great for rapid prototyping.
Exactly. But now, home labbers are demanding real engineering rigor. They want test-driven development and strict code review for LLM outputs because, to your point, autonomous agents can make massive, cascading mistakes incredibly fast.
Yeah, they really can.
But the actual utility is undeniable. You have users like TechMan detailing an AI rig that has consumed 1.75 million tokens in a year, doing active automated work.
Oh, wow.
And what's fascinating here is how home labbers are running these local AI models on repurposed thin clients.
Which is just cheap, lure power enterprise hardware.
Right. It represents a democratization of compute power that directly counters the narrative that only massive tech giants with billion-dollar data centers can participate in the AI revolution.
Yeah, I saw a thread for a $500 AI build challenge where people are just cobbling together secondhand GPUs to get into the game and the things they are doing with them.
They're so creative.
One user built an AI Docs masterclass using local models to automatically write and generate API references. Another is using local AI to organize massive personal photo and video libraries.
And not just facial recognition, right?
No, generating natural language scene descriptions. But my absolute favorite is the AI bird watching thread.
Oh, that one is brilliant.
They've hooked up computer vision models to their smart home cameras to identify specific bird species in the backyard and log them to a data dashboard.
It's highly creative, but it also has a really profound utilitarian edge. Like a major trend is using unrestricted local AI to bypass the censored internet.
Ah, right.
When news sites or research journals started heavily region blocking or paywalling content, Homelabers began using their local models to scrape and summarize that content without having to bounce through restricted corporate API endpoints.
That's amazing. But they are definitely having fun with it too.
Yep.
Someone set up two local AI models to just endlessly debate the origins of oil.
Abiogenic versus biogenic.
Exactly. It's just purely LLM-generated entertainment. But then on a more serious note, a 32 billion parameter Qwen 3 model ranked programming languages.
Oh, that caused a huge stir.
Yeah, it sparked this massive, intense debate on the forum about training data bias and how the cultural origin of a model affects its logic,
Absolutely.
which ultimately leads to a thread called "So many AIs, such little time." I mean, it sounds like standing in front of a giant buffet where the dishes change every 5 minutes. How do you even decide what to run when a new, supposedly groundbreaking model drops every Tuesday?
You step back and focus on the physics of it. I mean, all those local AI models need serious metal to run on, and that metal requires an immense amount of power and cooling.
Yeah, you can't run a localized AI revolution on hopes and dreams.
Exactly. This brings us to the physical layer, how these Homelabers are physically building, cooling, and powering these systems.
Because the hardware market is brutal right now. The forums are tracking a market shock where DRAM memory prices are up 400%.
Spike.
So you have people actively designing around that, building 14-core Xeon servers out of discarded eBay enterprise parts for under $100 Australian.
Yeah, or they're doing these complex dual builds like a NixOS AI PC paired with a FreeBSD NAS for storage.
Wait, let me ask you, with DRAM prices up 400%, are we going to see a renaissance of hyper-efficient retro-style coding just because people literally can't afford the RAM to be lazy with their code anymore?
Oh, we are already seeing it. They're being forced to be incredibly strategic with resource allocation. But this tactile, hardware-focused mindset, it extends far beyond just assembling motherboards.
Here's where it gets really interesting. They are blending the digital and the physical.
They really are.
They're engineering electronic mousetraps,
Yeah.
building sensors and automated mechanical triggers that send push notifications to their servers when a mouse is caught. They are deep into 3D printing to manufacture custom mounting brackets for their server racks.
Oh, and the repurposing of old tech. Someone reverse engineered an old Pebble Time 2 smartwatch just to control their house.
And another user took an Elgato Stream Deck, which is usually for Twitch streamers, and wrote Lua scripts so they could physically push a button to control their Sway window manager on Linux.
It's incredibly hands-on. But, with all that physical hardware comes the reality of its life cycle.
Right.
You see threads discussing the retro appeal of LTO tape drives for cold data storage, sitting right next to serious logistical discussions about recycling and e-waste in Brisbane.
Yeah, there's this constant dilemma of hardware being too good to throw out, but too tricky to fix.
And perhaps the most sobering hardware discussion is the concept of life after death or hardware estate planning.
That thread stopped me in my tracks. It's essentially acknowledging that if you build a deeply complex, custom server rack that controls your home's internet, security, and thermostat, you are creating a single point of human failure.
Yep.
If you get hit by a bus, your grieving family is left with a blinking rack of enterprise servers they don't understand, and they can't even turn on the lights.
It's a huge problem.
Oh.
So they are writing runbooks.
Literal manuals for their spouses on how to decommission the Homelab without breaking the house?
It grounds all this technical jargon in very real human stakes. And speaking of real stakes, let's talk about power, especially in storm-prone areas like Brisbane.
Yes.
One of the most active threads is entirely dedicated to solar solutions and home assistant integration. Home labbers are pulling real-time data from sun-grow solar inverters, wiring up Modbus communication protocols, and deeply analyzing battery options from Tesla, BYD, or even DIY battery banks.
And this is not just to shave a few bucks off the electric bill. During Cyclone Alfred, the community was sharing real-time UPS uninterruptible power supply logs.
Right, ain't no sunshine thread.
Yeah, where they were comparing which pure sine wave batteries actually kept their servers alive when the grid completely collapsed.
This is a critical evolution. If we connect this to the bigger picture, a home lab isn't just a tech sandbox anymore.
Yeah.
For many of these people, it has become a localized, critical infrastructure hub. When extreme weather knocks out the municipal grid, their houses stay online, their data remains secure, and their communication systems keep functioning.
But keeping the power flowing is only step one. Once you have a resilient solar-powered server rack, you have to network it all together. And the networking forums are, frankly, intimidating.
They are hardcore.
They are pushing way past standard gigabit speeds, migrating to 2.5 and 10 gigabit gear, and dealing with the reality that upgrading one single cable often cascades into needing to replace your entire network switch.
The complexity scales rapidly. Some users are even moving to IPv6 only architectures at home.
Which is tough.
Yeah, because so much of the internet still uses the older IPv4 standard, so they have to set up NAT-T64 translation gateways.
Which, to use an analogy, sounds like trying to speak a brand new language in a town where half the shops only accept the old currency.
That's exactly what it is.
A NAT-N64 gateway is basically a currency exchange booth you have to build in your living room so your modern devices can still talk to old websites. Things are absolutely going to break.
Oh, they do break, but fixing them is the point.
Right.
It's why there's a massive thread titled, "Time to Get Serious About My Router."
Right.
Users are ripping out the generic boxes their internet providers gave them. They're installing open source firmware like OpenRed or OPNsense.
Setting up isolated VLANs.
Yep, and managing the routing chaos with IP address management tools like Netbox. They deploy network monitoring systems like LibreNMS or Zabbix just to get visual dashboards of where the bottlenecks are.
They are even running tools like Penguin for complex mesh networking and managing their own secure web certificates.
But they aren't just networking with the internet. They are pulling raw data out of thin air.
Oh, yeah. There are deep discussions on Meshtastic, which uses off-grid LoRa radio frequencies to build text message mesh networks across Brisbane without cell towers.
Right, and they are installing ADS-B receivers on their roofs to independently track aircraft flights overhead.
And some are even building self-hosted NTP servers. They are wiring physical GPS receivers with pulse-per-second outputs directly into their network switches.
Just so their home computers can pull microsecond accurate time directly from satellites in space.
Which is a beautiful philosophical shift, really. They are moving away from merely consuming packaged internet data to actively pulling raw physical data directly from the environment around them.
Of course, they do still need an external internet connection, which brings us to the highly debated Starlink $8.50 plan.
Yes, a satellite internet plan that is capped at 500 kilobits per second. In 2026, isn't 500 kilobps basically dial-up speeds? Who's actually paying for this?
Well, you aren't streaming movies on it. It's for IoT, Internet of Things backhaul.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, when you need a remote weather station or a rural backup connection to ping a central server with tiny text logs, a slow but unlimited satellite connection is infinitely better than having no connection at all.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, to run all these distinct services, the routing, the time servers, the DNS, they need virtualization.
Definitely.
The community is overwhelmingly praising Proxmox as their hypervisor of choice. They are writing soup to nuts guides on how to set it up, how to cluster it, and how to back it up to a separate QNAP NAS device for data deduplication.
And they are even network booting their machines using PXE boot.
Starting up a computer without a hard drive, just pulling its operating system directly across the network cable.
The foundation of how we run software has finally stabilized. The old war between containers versus virtual machines is officially over.
Let's clarify that for a second. Think of a virtual machine like buying a completely separate house for every single digital appliance you own.
Right.
It is incredibly secure and isolated, but it wastes a massive amount of resources. A Docker container is like renting out just one room in a shared house. They all share the same plumbing and foundation, so it is vastly lighter and faster.
Exactly. And the consensus now is that you use both. Containers for lightweight applications and full VMs when you need strict security isolation.
Yeah.
The hypervisor debates SN versus Hyper-V versus KVM are no longer about abstract benchmarks. They're about which one practically lets you pass your physical graphics card through to your virtual machine the easiest.
Yeah, you even see threads debating Docker versus Podman, specifically because Podman has a daemonless architecture.
Which means it doesn't require a background process running as the root administrator, making it far more secure.
All of this is incredible scale for a residential house. Though, to be fair, nothing compares to the thread analyzing China's underwater data center.
Oh, that's fascinating.
They're discussing massive enterprise servers powered entirely by ocean wind turbines and cooled naturally by the deep sea water. It is an unbelievable contrast to a home labber sweating over a Raspberry Pi in their living room.
Yeah, quite the contrast.
But okay, we have the local AI, the physical hardware, the solar power, and the network infrastructure. What software are they actually running on top of all this to make their daily lives better?
The absolute brain of the operation, without question, is Home Assistant. Its dominance in the smart home space cannot be overstated.
It is everywhere. People are building petrol management dashboards that scrape local fuel prices and calculate their family's exact cost per kilometer.
They are arguing over the best Zigbee sensors and HA-compatible goodies,
They are configuring dedicated kiosk tablets to mount on their walls, integrating local voice control so they don't have to use Amazon or Google.
and experimenting with the new TRMNL EEC displays for ultra-low-power calendar alerts.
But the discussions around those smart home dashboards reveal a really fascinating tension. There is a very real conflict between making a screen information dense, which the tech enthusiast who built it loves,
Oh, yeah.
and making it actually usable for the rest of the family. At a certain point, home labbing collides violently with user experience design. You can't just throw 50 data graphs on an iPad in the kitchen. It has to be legible to someone who just wants to turn on the hallway light.
That collision between complex tech and daily usability is a recurring theme,
Right.
especially when home labbers try to reclaim their media and data.
Right.
They're running Jellyfin to stream their own movies. They're getting serious with the R Suite tools like Sonar and Radar, which automate the fetching and organization of media.
They are using paperless AsynX, which uses OCR to scan and digitize the text of every physical piece of mail or document they own.
They use Audio Bookshelf for podcasts and dedicated self-hosted podcast managers. They are systematically extracting themselves from big tech's cloud.
Instead of using Zapier for workflow automation, they self-host NAN.
Yep. To keep Google and Apple from reading their poof notifications, they run a service called NTFi.
They debate network-wide ad blocking, comparing Pi-hole against NextDNS.
They have massive debates over the ultimate note-taking setup, comparing Joplin's encrypted syncing against Obsidian's local interconnected graph fuse.
They even host CryptPad, which is a zero-knowledge collaborative document editor, just so they don't have to use Google Docs.
And then there is the absolute white whale of self-hosting.
Email.
Email.
Reading this self-hosted email thread is hilarious and terrifying. It is a rite of passage akin to volunteering to be a digital punching bag for every spam filter on Earth.
It really is.
To self-host email, you have to fight SPF, DKIM, and DMRC, which in simple terms are highly complex cryptographic handshakes like digital bouncers at a club.
That's a good way to put it.
You have to configure them perfectly just to prove to a giant like Gmail that your homemade server isn't a spam bot, just so you can send a message to your mom.
Which is exactly why the discourse community relies so heavily on sharing collective knowledge. You see threads like Compose Yourself, where users share their battle-tested Docker configuration files so beginners don't have to start from scratch.
That's so helpful.
Yeah. There's a broader, lighter, and faster movement focusing entirely on resource efficiency. It's led to the massive adoption of Caddy as the ultimate web server because its automatic security certificates and simple reverse proxy make older enterprise tools like Nginx look completely over-engineered for home use.
Okay, so to keep all these apps, configurations, containers, and routing rules straight, home labbers are basically acting like full-blown software engineers.
They essentially are.
Which brings us to the final category in the digest: development tools and the intense philosophical debates about how code should actually be managed.
It starts at the foundational level of version control, and there is a real rebellion happening against the industry standards.
Oh, definitely.
You have passionate threads defending Fossil DCVS, which is a version control system that runs entirely in a single lightweight SQLite database over Git, which runs the entire modern software world.
People are writing long arguments about why Git is a fundamentally flawed choice for package management. And these debates get incredibly heated.
They do.
There is a massive rant titled "Living the Lie," focused entirely on GitHub. Users are calling out the illusion of the open source community resting on a centralized proprietary platform owned by Microsoft, and they are fiercely advocating for self-hosted alternatives like Gitea.
This raises an important question, and it's a theme we see extending into their deep explorations of the Nostr protocol.
Right.
The community is dissecting Nostr's past, present, and future as a decentralized architecture for social networking and data relays.
Yeah.
What we are witnessing across the GitHub and Nostr threads is a fundamental cultural battle.
Yeah.
It is the friction between the frictionless convenience of centralized corporate platforms and the difficult technical pursuit of true digital sovereignty. We aren't taking sides here, but it's clearly a major pain point for the community.
So what does this all mean? We see the community fighting GitHub, exploring Nostr, and there's even a cautionary tail thread called NixOS crashed and burned.
Oh, that was a rough one.
Yeah, where a user details how the hyper-modern Nix operating system broke so badly they fled back to the old-school, decades-old reliability of FreeBSD. Does all of this represent a larger tech fatigue, where people are just exhausted by constant updates and want things to be simple, sovereign, and reliable again?
I think so. You absolutely see it in the OS and desktop wars on the forum. There are endless, deeply technical debates over configuring the Sway tiling window manager.
They argue the merits of Arch Linux's constant rolling updates versus Fedora Atomic's unbreakable immutability.
People desperately want control, but they are exhausted by the fragility, which is why they are studying infrastructure as code. They are taking courses like Ansible 101 to automate their server setups.
They are walking the steep, punishing learning curve of Kubernetes in a thread brilliantly titled A Pilgrim's Progress, only to reach the end and ask themselves if they actually needed that much complexity to begin with.
Exactly. They're even applying behavioral psychology to their server.
Yes. There's a fascinating thread on signal detection theory. They are taking psychological concepts about how humans perceive stimuli and applying them to system monitoring to reduce alert fatigue, trying to mathematically separate real critical server crashes from meaningless background noise so they don't lose their minds.
And amidst all this heavy engineering, you still have these beautiful fringe dev projects.
Oh, for sure.
Someone built a complete language server for the ancient Forth programming language on a tiny microcontroller.
And someone else is using a tool called MARP to render markdown text documents into slick presentations just so they never have to touch PowerPoint again.
It is a phenomenal, deeply interconnected ecosystem. The breadth of what the Homelab Brisbane discourse covers, from localized AI all the way down to microcontroller programming, is staggering.
It truly is. We started this deep dive talking about running AI models on repurposed thin clients to shift geopolitical hardware balances.
Traveled through electronic mousetraps and ocean wind data centers.
Survived a Category 2 cyclone with solar arrays, and ended up debating the psychological fatigue of modern software engineering.
And it leaves us with something profound to consider. We've seen how these individuals are building incredibly robust, self-sufficient, and highly advanced systems in their own homes. As commercial cloud services become increasingly expensive, subscription-heavy, and frankly, degraded in their utility, could these decentralized, solar-powered, AI-equipped home labs eventually use their LoRa radios and satellite uplinks to network together?
Wow.
The pieces are all there to form a parallel, citizen-owned internet.
That is a wild thought to end on. If you have the hardware, the solar power, the mesh radios, and the local AI processing, you don't really need the corporate cloud anymore, do you? To you, the listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning how your technology works, and maybe just maybe it's time to find a dusty corner in your own closet and see what that rusty server can really do.